All right, hey people. Today is December 24th, 2024. It's about 8 o'clock in the morning. My name is Chris Lucas. This is my show, The Protestant View. I actually just got done working like a 12-hour shift, and I normally am already asleep right now, but I wanted to kind of do a little Christmas video, and I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do it, so I'm going to try and make this short too. Um, I know the title might seem odd to people because it says why Christmas is dangerous. And I've been doing a lot of research on a book that I'm writing about Daniel 9 and the 70th week. And it really got me to thinking about how when people mess around with dates and things like that, and they want to have their own interpretation of things, you wind up casting doubt on the Bible unnecessarily. And so one of the things I was thinking about was, I'm pretty sure people have saw this documentary called Zeitgeist, and I'm just going to play just a little bit of it so you kind of understand what I mean.
And is still expressed on many levels to this day. Broadly speaking, the story of Horus is as follows. Horus was born on December 25th of the Virgin Isis Mary. His birth was accompanied by a star in the east, which, in turn, 3 kings followed to locate and adorn the newborn Savior. At the age of 12, he was a prodigal child teacher, and at the age of 30, he was baptized by a figure known as Anup, and thus began his ministry. Horus had 12 disciples he traveled about with, performing miracles such as healing the sick and walking on water. Horus was known by many gestural names such as the Truth, the Light, God's Anointed Son, the Good Shepherd, the Lamb of God, and many others. After being betrayed by Typhon, Horus was crucified, buried for 3 days, and thus resurrected. These attributes of Horus, whether original or not, seem to permeate many cultures of the world, for many other gods are found to have the same general mythological structure. Attis of Phrygia, born of the Virgin Nana on December 25th, crucified, placed in a tomb, and after 3 days was resurrected. Krishna of India, born of the Virgin Devaki, with a star in the east signaling his coming. He performed miracles with his disciples, and, upon his death, was resurrected. Dionysius of Greece, born of a virgin on December 25th, was a traveling teacher who performed miracles such as turning water into wine. He was referred to as the King of Kings, God's only begotten Son, the Alpha and Omega, and many others. And, upon his death, he was resurrected. Mithra of Persia, born of a virgin on December 25th, he had 12 disciples and performed miracles, and upon his death was buried for 3 days and thus resurrected.
Now, some of these, I'm not sure, but I know Attis, the one mentioned earlier, was definitely December 25th. But what I'm bringing this up to you is that I don't think there's any proof at all that Jesus was born on December 25th. Absolutely none. And we can figure this out by just reading, like, Luke chapter 1 verse 5, I believe. And in Luke 1 verse 5, it talks about Zechariah and his service as a priest in the temple. This is how we can calculate when John was conceived, and from John's conception we can calculate the birth of Christ, right? And so you go to Chronicles, 1 Chronicles chapter 24, and it's got a list of when each of these families are supposed to serve in the temple. All right, and they're each supposed to serve a week, right? Well, they're supposed to serve 2 weeks out of the year, and so it lists like 24 of them, right? And then you go back around one more time, and then you serve one more year. So, like Abijah, which is what we figure out Zechariah from. So he would serve the 8th week and the 32nd week. Now, the 8th week on the Hebrew calendar would be IR. So let me just kind of pull this up so you can understand what I mean. So it would be IR, right? Because that's the 8th week, because there's 4 weeks in Nisan, 4 weeks in each month, right? But here's the thing. All the priests were required to serve one whole week whenever there was like a festival. So they would all serve the Passover week. So even though it says he serves the 8th week, you don't count the week that they all have to serve. So when it's given these like times they're supposed to serve, you don't count that the week that they're all supposed to serve. So this is so you would have at least 9, right? Since there's 1 week of Passover. But we also know there's the Pentecost is one of those that they all have to be there for also. And Pentecost happens, gosh, man, right off the top of my head, I'm thinking Sivan 6, but don't quote me on that. Like I said, I'm kind of doing this like spur of the moment. So you wouldn't count that. So now you basically have 10 weeks from when the Jewish calendar starts. So he would probably be serving sometime around Sivan. I'm thinking like 7 through what is it, 14, something like that. Right. So the middle of that. So he wouldn't even probably see Elizabeth until after he leaves there. And it says they conceived John shortly after John the Baptist. So we're looking at either the end of Sivan or like maybe the first or second week of Tammuz, right? I think it's probably like sometime in Tammuz. So we would start to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We got Kislev. That's when Elizabeth and Mary talk, and Mary finds out she's pregnant, and it's Elizabeth's 6th month, right? So then we know John gets born about 3 months later. So hold on, I kind of lost my count here. Well, if John, if let me put it this way, if they were pregnant in Tammuz, it would be I guess you would start the count from Av. So it just kind of depends on how you factor that in. But if it was like Tammuz, you go Av 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So she probably finds out she's pregnant in Tevet. Tevet or Kislev. But if it's Tevet, then you would go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and you would have Jesus born in Tishri, which is where I me and a lot of people think he was born in the month of Tishri, which is about September or October. I don't see how anyone can figure out that John was born in any other month. Like, because I think like the only other time he'd be Zechariah would be serving, because he serves twice. The only other time he'd be serving would be Kislev. And then so if he gets pregnant, okay, so if Elizabeth gets pregnant, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then let's see here, Tammuz. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It looks like it would push most likely into Nisan. It would be when Jesus gets born. So these are the only 2 times that that this that Jesus could have been born in is basically Nisan or Tishri. And most of us think Tishri because it's fitting that if he's born in like the Feast of Tabernacles, now you have God tabernacling among us, right? And you got to think it makes more sense that Jesus came to earth and was, what they say, born, right? But see, God's always existed. See, that's another reason why I have problems with the December thing, because it makes it sounds too much like he was born in December. Whereas Tishri, it's God's always existed, so now he's just tabernacling with us, right? And some people are like wondering, probably like, well, hey, Chris, Hippolytus, he calculated it. And this was like early in, I want to say like, what was it, like 280 or 380? I'm just kind of doing this off the top of my head because I don't feel like pulling up all my notes. But Hippolytus, sometime around 200 or 380, I can't remember right off the top of my head. But he's the one who I think first calculated, or first was saying that Jesus was born in December 25th. Why did he think that? It's not that this was a tradition passed down. So I want to show you something. Julian, I bet this will pop up. Julian Calendar equinox dates. Okay, so I pretty much thought this, but so originally March 25th was set as the date of the spring equinox by Julius Caesar when he established the Julian calendar. So the same thing goes for December 25th. It would be like, oh, I think December 25th is like and I guess that's like the time when it's it goes from it starts to become the darkest, or it's like you got the shortest amount of daylight hours or something like that. I wanted to say equinox, but I know the equinox is actually in the fall. So and so like December 25th was was based on the same kind of thinking. And so what he did was Hippolytus, he calculates March 25th to December 25th, and that's why you get this 25th date, right? And I don't see any other reason why it came across except for like they wanted to say that Jesus is the light of the world. And so just like Sol Invictus, they're whatever god they got that they worship. I think it's like Addis is another one, and they got these birth dates of December 25th. And part of the reason why these Roman gods had those dates was because that they're corresponding it with these like the winter solstice. That's it. That's what I was trying to think of. So it's coordinated with the winter solstice. And I guess the Christians were sort of, or some of these people were copying that and trying to, I guess, it's not so much that they were, these early Christians were trying to merge paganism in with Christianity, from what I'm gathering, but they're not using the Bible either. And it's just like they're just coming up with these like equinox dates because this is the time when it's the spring equinox, and life is starting to spring up, and that's why they're coordinating it like that. Because some of them are even teaching that Jesus was and this is where I do wonder if some of the pagan stuff starts slipping in, was because you have this. Let me pull this up because I do got like a note. Because there's this god Attis, right? And he did something on not December. There's like this Black Friday thing that went on. If I can find it, man, I got a whole bunch of notes here. I would have this all laid out, but I just don't have time. So I'm almost there. I know it's like somewhere around here. Okay, so Attis was a Phrygian god associated with vegetation and agricultural cycle. His myth involves themes of death and resurrection, symbolizing seasonal growth and decay. So the spring equinox would also symbolize like resurrection and growth, right? Because you got these the harvest and everything is coming out. And it says the worship of Attis was closely linked to that of Cybele. His story involves his tragic love affair with Cybele and his self-castration, and was central to the rituals of her cult. That's not quite what I wanted to find, though. And I think this cult was going on since the 13th century BC. And it spread to Rome, where that worship was officially adopted in, I think, 204 BC. Now, Sybil was known as Magna Mater, Great Mother. The Romans incorporated her into their pantheon. But okay, here's one for you, because this is something I thought was interesting too. Attis and Friday, because while I was doing this research, it occurred to me that if they're using Sol Invictus and all this other stuff, and to me there does look like there's some pagan influence being pushed into all this. So I thought to myself, oh, okay, let me look up this Attis person. And it says the Phrygo-Roman god Attis, who was associated with themes of death and resurrection, was said to have died on Black Friday and resurrected after 3 days. So the thing is, I don't see how Jesus, when he says, I'm the sign of Jonah, I'm going to be in the grave for 3 days and 3 nights. On a Jewish calendar, you cannot possibly get that from a Friday crucifixion. And you can get it from a Wednesday crucifixion, but you can't get it from a Friday crucifixion. And I was like, why is it that these people ever started observing Friday? And I actually think it's tied back to Attis. But anyway, let me get and there's this note. I do have it in I have it in my description. I'll just kind of make one more point. This is called the Dark Decade. Well, it's called Jesus's Birth, Roman History. When was Jesus born? I want to just kind of skip down to this is a really good article. And these people, this person here, I'll just start from right here. The Glory of Roman Augustus, as reported by E.G. Bickerman in his book Chronology of the Ancient World. The period of 3 BC to 2 BC was especially important to Rome. This was a period for celebrating the glory of Rome throughout the Roman Empire. The imperial domains were in festival and celebration. In 2 BC, Caesar Augustus celebrated his 25th year as Emperor of Rome. Counted from the time that he was proclaimed Augustus on January 16th, 27 BC. This date of 2 BC also coincided with the 750th year of the founding of Rome. Martin reports that in 2 BC, Augustus was awarded with his most prestigious title, Pater Patriae, or Patriae, Father of the Country. The Roman Senate bestowed the award on February 5th, 2 BC, the day of Concord. This award to Augustus is significant in the chronology of Jesus' birth because in the year prior to the award, 3 BC, a decree went out from Augustus that the entire Roman people were required to register their oath of allegiance to Augustus as related to his receipt of the Patriae award. This is the census spoken of by Luke. In those days, Caesar Augustus issued a decree that a census should be taken of the entire Roman world. This was the first census that took place while I can't even say that right now, was governor of Syria. Quirinius was governor of Syria. So Joseph went from the town of Nazareth in Galilee to Judea, to Bethlehem, the town of David, because he belonged to the house and the line of David. He went there to register with Mary. So this is going to be the important part. The census oath registration took place in the summer to early fall of 3 BC. I think it was more likely early fall, which aligns with the probable date of September 11th, 3 BC for the birth of Jesus. That I'm not sure about. I kicked that around. I'm also mulling over 5 BC. But anyway, William Ramsay stated that the normal time for the Roman censuses was from August to October, not late autumn, in the winter, or early spring during the rainy season. So that's key too, is that this guy, William Ramsay, said the normal time for Roman censuses was from August to October and not late October. So not November, not December, and not early spring during the rainy season, because that would be the other possible time that Jesus could be born based on when Zechariah has to serve the temple. The timing up for this census in 3 BC during the period from August to October is further evidenced by the birth of Jesus in September 3 BC, since Luke's gospel clearly states that Joseph and Mary were traveling to Bethlehem to comply with the census. One more thing is that when they would collect taxes, and normally they do these censuses to collect taxes, and it would kind of make sense, and then collect the taxes after a harvest, right? Because that's part of the taxes, collecting the harvest. And so it would make sense that if you're going to do a census, and you normally do it in August to October, that it's going to be before the harvest, and that way you collect everything right after the harvest. That's my thinking. But like this person says, they normally always do those censuses around this time anyway. It is interesting that the Encyclopedia of Religion and Ethics, it's interesting that in the Encyclopedia of Religion and Ethics, the celestial signs interpreted by the Magi to be applicable to the King of Kings were reportedly and interpreted in Rome as being applicable to Augustus and the dawn of a new and glorious day for Rome. To the Romans, the planet Jupiter was considered to be guardian and ruler of the empire, and it was supposed to determine the course of all human affairs. Obviously, the Magi were not impressed with the celestial claims made by Rome as they traveled to Bethlehem, not Rome. And then there's if anyone's kind of studied the subject, they know there's like a little debate about the I'm having such trouble pronouncing these names. Census of Quirinius. Probably ruining that, but anyway, Luke said that Jesus was born during the census registration when Quirinius or Cyrenius was governor of Syria. This reference by Luke has caused problems for historians, as they have reported that they could not find any record of a census by Quirinius or Cyrenius, which occurred from 7 BC to 1 BC. There's clear evidence that Quirinius or Sulpicius Quirinius was governor of Syria between 80, so this is 86 or 7, that he conducted a census at that time, as referenced again by Luke in Acts 5:37. Ernest Martin has stated, up to now, no available information has been discovered to show that Quirinius was administrator, a census taker in 3-2 BC or in the previous years. This new historical research, however, can find that census of Quirinius in the historical records which took place at Jesus' nativity. At first glance, there appears to be a serious problem with the historical records. Upon closer evaluation, however, the confusion seems to be associated with 3 individuals who were involved in the governance of Syria in various capacities in the general time frame of the birth of Jesus. These individuals were Quintilius Varus, Cincius, Saturnius, and Sulpicius Quirinius. I don't know. From the Roman coins found from the testimony of Josephus and from various other records, we find that Quintilius Varus was twice governor of Syria from 7 or 6 BC to 4 BC, and again from 2 BC to 81. Between the 2 governorships by Quintilius Varus, Cincius Saturnius served as governor from 4 BC to 2 BC. So that's from Josephus' Antiquities of the Jews. So it says the following chart appears in the works of Ernest Martin. It depicts the historically accurate terms of governorship in Syria from the period of 7 BC to 180. So we can see this. So it says, what about Sulpicius Quirinius, who is referred to in Luke's gospel as the governor of Syria? Some have said Luke's got his facts confused with the census of Quirinius in 86-7, as there was a census at that time, and there is disputed evidence that Quirinius was governor in Syria 80 to 87. Turns out there's an interesting answer to this apparent dilemma. From Josephus' book Antiquities, we learn that the early Christian historian Tertullian reported that the Roman records recorded censuses, so plural, censuses, in Palestine at the time of Jesus' birth. Tertullian said that they took place at a time when Saturnius was governor of Syria and reflected the time frame as 3/2 BC. This seems to conflict with Luke's account. However, Josephus provides some clarity. According to Josephus, there were actually governors, plural, in Syria during the rule of Saturnius. As it turns out, Quirinius did indeed conduct the census in Judea at the time of Saturnius was governor of Syria. However, according to Joseph Martyr in his book Apology, Quirinius was actually held the title of procurator, not governor in Judea at the time of this particular census, the one during Jesus' birth. Procurators were appointed by the emperor independent of appointments to governor. It appears then that Luke was well aware that Quirinius was in Palestine conducting a registration census when Saturnius was the actual official governor of Syria. So why did Luke call Quirinius governor when in fact his title was procurator? Actually, Luke did not use the Greek words legatus, governor, but instead used the Greek word hegemoneutos, which simply means ruling or administrating. Consequently, we have a case in which the translators have incorrectly used the word governor rather than the more appropriate term administrator or procurator. So there is one of the potential sources. There's one other potential source for confusion. I haven't read this part yet. Is it possible that the census mentioned by Luke was mainly for the purposes of taxation and not for counting? Is it possible that this was not the same census as the one conducted by Rome for the purpose of conferring the title of Pater Patriae on Caesar Augustus? Not so. As recorded in history, the official censuses for the purpose of taxation were conducted in 28 BC and 8 BC, exactly 20 years apart. So the census reported by Luke was indeed related to the exaltation of Augustus to the title of Pater Patriae. When all is said and done, we can now better understand why even skeptical historians consider Luke to be a brilliant historian. After reviewing the facts, we can see that Luke had it right, that in the case of the governorship of Syria and the biblical account of the birth of Jesus, all the records are reconciled and support the proposed birth date of Jesus in September 11th, 3 BC. So I don't know if, like I said, I'm not sure about the September 11th, 3 BC. Sounds pretty decent, though. And so I can't really think of how much more. And like I said, I did put that article in my description. If I did a poor job of reading it, other people can read it. I'm trying to think of some things because I did listen to CJ Cox's debate with this guy Alex, and Alex did a poor job. This was on Kevin's Biblical Discussions channel on YouTube, and I kind of know CJ, and so I was kind of interested in the debate. CJ is a really good debater, and the thing is, the other guy, I feel like he was on the right side and had history on his side, but it was a really good example of how you can be on the right side of a debate and lose a debate. Because I felt like he kind of poorly answered CJ, because CJ would bring up things like Hippolytus and Hippolytus already calculating that date and asking questions like, well, why were these Christians promoting this date if Jesus wasn't born that day? And here I have, early history, and granted, it's like the biblical account favors the other guy, but it's still helpful to answer all these questions, and actually have better tie-ins, and then just spouting off history and not really tying it into the 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 defense of what you're trying to say. Yeah, if this video is coming out terrible, I really apologize. Like I said, if I got a lot of information and I wasn't sure if I was even going to be able to make a video if I don't make it now. So, I think there definitely was some degree of syncretism going on, where basically what that is it's where you're blending religions together to appease probably to appease the Roman government. Because I find things really odd. Like, okay, I think back to Polycarp being martyred, but he was the bishop of Smyrna. And I find it really odd that the Roman bishop Anicetus, as far as I know, wasn't martyred. So, and I don't know all the details of it. This is just me just thinking of history off the top of my head. And I'm just like, huh. One guy was actually following and doing things we see in the Bible, Polycarp, where we see the apostles observing Sabbath. We never see them observing Easter Sunday. Yet we see Polycarp getting killed. And we see this Bishop Anicetus who is making these claims that he has this authority to change days, is what it looks like to me. And Polycarp's asking him, well, where do you get this from? And Polycarp's like, I learned this from John, but who taught you what you're doing? It's kind of like the gist of it, right? Or gist of it. But anyways, and it's like, I think Bishop Anicetus, who's the Roman bishop, he says that he got this from Paul and Peter, but he never provided proof. And I think that the Roman bishop was basically trying to humor Rome more or less, or make Christianity more acceptable. And I don't know, like, I still don't get all, like, I still don't quite get why they were even trying to have, like, why Hippolytus was trying to do what he was doing in other Christians. And the only thing I can think of was, were some of these people previously worshiping some of these gods? And, or maybe they weren't ever worshiping them, but maybe, the worship of these gods like Sol Invictus and Mithra and Attis, but especially Sol Invictus. Like, if you're like, oh, you might hear like a pagan, going, oh, this Sol Invictus gives us life and gives us, light and life and all this other stuff. And then maybe one of them, someone who believes in Christianity, might have said something like, well, Jesus is the one who gives me light and all this other stuff, right? And and so they're like saying, no, but this is the true God that fits this description, and maybe from there something happened. I don't know. No, Nanya, I said it was dangerous because I have that movie Zeitgeist on here. And I know a lot of people, I know a good amount of people that, okay, let's check this out. Let's say you're sitting on the fence about Christianity. Your faith is wavering a little bit. But you're someone that's kind of studying things. And you're like, so you go watch, and you're like, you're kind of thinking Christianity sounds good, but then you run across Zeitgeist, and now it's talking about how it's got all these gods that were born on December 25th, and now it sounds like, well, Jesus sounds just like that, And now you got all these Christians saying, oh yeah, he was born December 25th. You start reading the Bible and go, whoa, wait a minute. This doesn't match up to the Bible. Oh, I see what might be happening. You know, either these people are having to stretch the truth and the Bible's not true, right? Oh, I'm trying to stretch it to make it fit. But Jesus isn't, but the Bible isn't really matching up. So it's casting down on the Bible, because when you read First Chronicles 24 and you start reading all these accounts and you start looking at the facts of history, it doesn't match up. Well, now that starts to make it sound like maybe he wasn't born, and maybe the Bible's not true. Maybe this is just more people incorporating these pagan gods, and then and then Jesus just kind of turned into one of these, these pagan gods just turned into Jesus. And now I'm not going to believe any of this nonsense. But see, if you just go by the facts, then it's like, well, wait a minute. Jesus was born probably in the month of Tishri. Might have even been born around the Feast of Tabernacles, which would be fitting, God tabernacling among us. Instead of God being born, God already existed. Now he's tabernacling among us in the flesh. And now we get rid of that word born, because God can't be born. He either already existed or maybe he's not God. And to me, if we had that, he came and tabernacled among us. Now suddenly we don't have that word born anymore. He's tabernacling among us. It's fitting the Feast of Tabernacles better. And it makes more sense. And I'm always like, there's a lot of people that will be like, Chris, you don't take our joy away. We love December 25th, and we like making it about Jesus, and we say it's about the birth of Jesus, but Jesus wasn't born there. And you keep telling people that it doesn't match up with the Bible, it doesn't match up with history, it doesn't match up with facts. To me, this is where it starts to create a danger, because then people watch a movie like Zeitgeist and see the 25th, for Mithra, for Attis, for all these different gods, right? And then they start saying, oh, wait a minute. It sounds like what they did was they just kind of took this Mithra or took this other god and jammed Jesus's name on it. And that stuck and became popular in the Roman government, right? And for some reason, everyone started believing it. But when I look in the Bible and I do serious study, hey, it doesn't match up. Jesus couldn't have been born that in December, but yeah, you got all these Christians saying it. So why would these Christians all be saying he's born in something where it doesn't match up to their Bible? And that makes me question the Bible. And I'm not going to believe it. See, I think people give people, oh, hey, Rev. Hey, by the way, I just found this guy's channel. If anyone's curious about another channel that does lives and stuff, but I'll admit I don't know much about him or anything like that. It's just something I listen to a lot of different people when I'm at work. Okay, so I don't know. We might not like each other in a month or something. I don't know. I hope not. But anyway, I just thought I'd throw that out there. But I try to be open-minded. I try to listen to people. I am at work, so I get kind of bored, and I think, hey, it doesn't hurt to hear what other people believe, so I can at least be familiar with it. So I think his channel is still fairly new, but anyway, yeah. So that's my biggest thing. That's why I want to make this video, because I know there's a lot of people stressing out about Christmas, because I know when it comes to Christmas, I'm like, it's a headache to buy presents. I'm like, why do I have to even spend all this time trying to think of what someone wants and spending all this extra money trying to buy something that someone might not even want? Wasting all this time. I don't have the time for Christmas, to be honest. So here's the thing, you know, what if you don't have the time for Christmas? It's too stressful. And then you can find out, hey, Jesus wasn't even born this day. And maybe you don't have to do all this present stuff. And because to me, it, especially with the way the economy is and everything, can people really afford just to blow money? And is that really the best ideal in the world? Just to put yourself through all this, you know, just I mean, people want to have a little family dinner still because everyone still gets those days off, right? So it's like I still meet with my family. Well, I'm not going to this year because until the weekend at least because I don't have these days off. But if I have these days off, I can understand people meeting together because your work gives you these days off anyway. So it doesn't hurt to, you know, have like family gatherings and stuff. It's just me personally. I just think there's an issue when you're saying that Jesus was born this day because he's just not. Oh, hey, Von Eric. Let's see here. Nanya says Maccabees tried to roast a pig in the temple on the 25th of Kislev in 186 BC. Zeus's birthday, December 25th. Oh, I don't know about. Well, in Maccabees, that's the temple was rededicated on Kislev 25th and I think 164 BC. Could be 165. I gotta kind of look at those dates a little bit. But I think it's or maybe it's 165 BC. Or it would be like maybe a couple of days into 164 BC. Like January, like a day or two. Kislev kind of falls right in that December, January place, I think. If I remember right. So I don't know about in Maccabees that they yeah, I know that's when they rededicated it though, but Zeus's birthday, I'd have to look that up. Like Zeus's birthday. Oh, this says August 23rd for Zeus. So I do like to be very careful with what I put out because you know I kind of want to make a video response for CJ because I really feel like he did not cover this First Chronicles 24 because I need to know how you get Christmas out of the 8th week that for Abijah. Because like I said, when you look at this, you go 8 weeks and you're thinking the last week of IR, but people also got to keep in mind you've got to serve an extra week for Passover. You also got to serve an extra week for Pentecost. So that now it's actually 10 weeks altogether because Pentecost would fall right here. So you're thinking, oh, it's going to actually be about the 7th through Savan 7 through 14. So if he, I don't know how much time it takes for him to travel once he serves the temple and stuff like that, or how much time it takes him to make a baby with with Elizabeth. But you got like the second half of Savan, and it might be into Tammuz. So let's say he got pregnant in Tammuz, then it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oops. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So Tevet, that's when Mary would, they'd talk to Mary. Mary would conceive. And then, so Mary conceives 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 Tishri. I don't know, but I don't know how CJ's getting December. And oh yeah, here's one last point that I'm thinking about. It would make sense if, like, let's say Jesus was born and there was like some story about him being born on Kislev 25, and that way it matched when the temple was rededicated. And so now you got this, like, the same day that the temple's rededicated is the same day Jesus is born. But the problem with it is that Kislev 25 is never mentioned. And I think CJ was trying to do that connection, and it doesn't work because these people had nothing about Hanukkah in their mind whatsoever when they were saying Jesus was born on December 25th. It was all based on the spring equinox being on March 25th on the Julian calendar. I mean, that's typically when they celebrated it, on like a fixed date, from what I understand. And so 9 months from March 25th, you have December 25th, which is when they also celebrated their winter solstice. So it was not based on anything biblical, just purely based on like the solstice and the winter solstice and the spring equinox. That's it. That's all I can find. I can't find any other proof. And that was like CJ's strongest argument, was Hippolytus, and Hippolytus doing that. But like I said, since it's not Kislev 25, there's even less of a connection to the Bible for me. Like, and that's not even God's appointed time anyway. I mean, maybe you could make some sort of argument since, it was prophesied and whatever, but it's not really an appointed time of God. It's Passover's an appointed time. Uh, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot, those are appointed times. Pentecost, that's an appointed time of God. But not Kislev 25. That's a day that men made to celebrate the rededication of the temple. Just like Purim, another day that God did not make, that men made. But God's appointed times were these appointed times. So when I see that Chronicles and Luke match up to where Jesus gets born in Tishri, and then Tishri actually is one of God's appointed times, and to think that Jesus probably tabernacled on earth that around that time, that makes sense to me. And then it's got like a biblical connection to it. And I don't know, man. The whole December 25th, it's completely removed of any kind of biblical connection whatsoever. So that was my main point. I almost forgot that one. So I think that's it. That's pretty much my show. I know it wasn't probably the best show because I'm very tired. I've worked 12 hours and I was up 2 hours after I got home. So I'm going to go to sleep. I hope everyone has like I guess a good holidays, and later.